After I bought the sand rod, before talking to the Cyclops that I forgot existed because there was no waterfall cave there in Link to the Past, a spinning pirouette I saved at nagged me to take a break. Hey Nintendo? Maybe the reason I played for so long without saving and taking a break was because you forced me to use save points outside of dungeons to save and take a break. What kind of a handheld game does that? Sure, you can close the 3DS, but what if it runs out of battery? I already ranted about this, I just don't understand the counterintuitiveness of nagging you for not taking a break in a save system that completely forces you to go for hours in a dungeon without taking a break. Sure, you can warp out of there with disposable items, but I'd have to buy those items over again, and it's not like they're like Uku in Twilight Princess, where they warped you back to where you previously were in the dungeon after using them. So I don't feel the need to break the pace by using those items, and I shouldn't need to use them to save in the first place. I mean, really? Compare this to Skyward Sword, where at least in that game, they have the decency to put save points inside of dungeons. Why didn't this game do that? This game must have taken the save points from Skyward Sword, but so it's baffling that in a handheld game they didn't do that. You'd think if anything they would have more save points. Why does Hilda waste my time talking when I go through that creatively placed waterfall portal? I know there's a sage nearby because the map has an X telling me where he is. What's the point of Hilda telling you that you're near a dungeon when the map that's always on the bottom screen blatantly tells you where the dungeons are? By the way, in A Link to the Past, they bothered to put in the effort to have crystals appear over where the dungeons are that you get the crystals from, and pendants appear where you get pendants from, and the Master Sword icons there too. In this game, they just cheap out and have X's mark the spot for everything, which only happened once in Link to the Past when you were urged to save Zelda. Anyways, after this, I wasted a bunch of time following the river east and then south, both times leading me to bottomless pits. Game? Don't put a path leading somewhere if there's nothing at the end of it. Not even, like, jars to break for rupees. I was expecting to at least find some Maimais to dive for. I like that you can dive for them, by the way. It's a good way to shake up the way you find them. I went right and oh, the Maimai was at the other end of the dead end. That's great game design. I jumped into the waterfall leading eternally into a crack in the earth somehow, and there was a Maimai there on the other side of the bottomless pit that had a dead end in the river left of it. Why couldn't they have moved that Maimai to the left side of the screen? If you swim into a waterfall cave north of the potion shop in Lorule, the Lorule equivalent of where a piece of heart cave is, this cowardly bomb thrower is smart enough to pay you off instead of bothering to fight you. Even though I normally don't bother trying to beat those enemies because they're brick walls of health, I don't exactly drop 20 rupees every time I beat them or anything. So this guy assuming that you're going to kill him when you kill literally none of the other guys of his species is kind of not self-aware at all by the game. I mean, it's not like it's an RPG where they reward you for killing every enemy on sight. But whatever. The interesting thing is if you ask for too much money and it's not intuitive or hinted at how much that is, he actually does fight you. And worst of all, he doesn't give you the last bit of money you asked for, and he doesn't drop all the money either upon being defeated. Huh, the Cyclops talks just like Mother Maimai in the French version. He says stress pronouns like toi instead of subject pronouns like tu, and only uses the unconjugated verbs. Like at first he basically says, "You to spare the life of me?" I took just 25 rupees from him because I felt sorry for him. I really wish the second money prize he gave you was 100 rupees. Not this pathetic amount of money. I mean, this is supposed to be a callback to Zelda 1, where the enemies would give you money in caves and say that's a secret to everyone. But those enemies generally gave you a lot more money than this. So the game basically tricks you into getting him to attack you by asking for the amount of money you should logically expect. I felt dirty asking for money for him, but the first prize being 5 rupees annoyed me enough for it. There's also a cave in Hyrule near the Piece of Heart cave equivalent to the Cyclops cave, or at least I thought there was. Turns out that a shallow part of the water surrounded by small waterfalls was not hinting that I could bomb it open for a cave entrance, even though it looked like that was the case. It really comes off as they planned to have it be a cave, but then they decided against it, but were too lazy to get rid of the shallow water hinting at it. After tediously backtracking from the Cyclops cave to the ground above it, I had to jump from to get there, when there really should have been lower ground to get to and from there easily. I tediously fought a whole bunch of Lorule Zoras that take forever to kill because they always stay in the water. The meter keeps running out as I was trying to shoot them with arrows. And why the hell does the bow suck so much in this game? Even when it's upgraded, the bow just shoots 3 arrows at once uselessly instead of one-shotting these guys. Remember the silver arrows? Those were great, weren't they? By forcing the arrows to run off a meter, it makes it so that I can only shoot 4 of them in a row, and then have to wait eons for the meter to fill up all the way to shoot a lot more. The Armos Knights boss fight in this game would be impossibly tedious, because rather than just being able to continuously shoot arrows, you'd have to wait for the meter to fill up again, Silver the Hedgehog style, to be able to shoot again. I take limited ammo that never runs out in-game over this garbage any day. Fighting these enemies have to be fought from a distance with attacks that won't one-shot them anyways, just rewarded me with 100 rupees, which is a big step down from the Quake medallion, something that probably would have helped in that fight. If only I had at least one of those medallions, I could have gotten rid of those faraway enemies a lot faster. They weren't a challenge, they were just tedious. It just took forever with all their health and constant diving. I went back to the potion shop because I remembered I overlooked a wall that was cracked in this game to lead to a cave, which I probably overlooked because there's no such cave connecting this area with Eastern Ruins in the original. There was a Like here. Oh, so the arrows one-shot this guy? That cave was so pointless, just had some rupees in it with no real level design. What's the point of including Likes if they're so rare anyways? It's just like GBA version Link to the Past. Minish Cap let you throw a boomerang at the rupee stock to stun them from the ground. Now you have to walk really close to the Like to activate it. It was only obvious to me that Like was there because I played Minish Cap, where it would pull that big money in the middle of small money trick all the time. A new player might fall for it, especially since there are barely any Likes in this game at all, not training you to deal with them. At least the cave led me to a place where there were chests I hadn't grabbed yet. At one point, the level design after the 20 rupee chest heavily reminded me of the sore fact that you can't hookshot yourself over the chest anymore. There's a part of the level design where there's a gap between walls as you facing a chest just close enough for the hookshot to hit and do nothing to. The only reason this kind of level design would be here is if they originally planned to let the hookshot send you to chests, and they diggishly cluelessly changed it later in development. Because come on, it so looks like that's what you're expected to do. Plus, I could only see the chest because I thought to move the camera right with the control pad of all things. Instead, I had to get this 100 rupee chest by fusing with the wall south of it. Why do there have to be so many walls in this goddamn place? Why can't I just drop down? I have to go all over the place just to get to a cracked wall I saw below me. It's especially glaring because in Link to the Past, there was a staircase right and south of the Eastern Palace that's gone in this game. So it's more tedious traveling south from there along the east wall. That cracked wall leads to a piece of heart that I fused with the wall to get. I went south of the Eastern Palace to a place I forgot to visit earlier because I had nothing of value in Link to the Past. Here, it has a cracked wall blocking a portal, and obnoxiously makes you wait through a cutscene showing you that the cracked wall did indeed contain a portal after you blow up the crack, making me really wish there was no crack to begin with. And it has a piece of heart surrounded by stakes. Let me guess, the cave north of it is worthless. Good, it still has a fairy fountain, and it's even better because it cuts right to the fairies instead of making you go down a long, pointless path. Then I went to the sanctuary because I remembered there was an equivalent to it in Lowril with treasure there. In Link to the Past, I never forgot to visit any part of the overworld, the Dark World, because I could visit almost the entire place at once. It was only really fragmented by that Titan Myth boulder north of the archery minigame place. The Dark World graveyard was forgettable, but at least I could visit it easily. I didn't have to constantly get around cracks in the earth. I like that there's a portal in the sanctuary, and you can actually tell Prel II that his daughter's okay. It's from talking to the Lowril Prel, who's inexplicably also a good person like him, that the reason Lowril's ravaged is because no one has faith in the gods, and the gods are spiteful assholes who punish people for not having faith in the kind of people who flooded Hyrule and Wind Waker, only letting a select few survive. Because I tell you this right here, I don't see the point of Hilda telling you about it at the end of the game as if it's a big plot twist. Lowril Sanctuary, I'd expect it to look like the Sanctuary rather than a boring cave, since it actually is supposed to be a place of worship here. I mean, Lowril has a castle instead of the iconic Pyramid of the Dark World that was so damn iconic and unique, so why not have a regular sanctuary too? This is probably why people stopped coming. It doesn't look fancy, it's just some dumb cave. Not even any paintings there. Why does Hilda have to waste my time after I leave that cave? I know this was once a sacred place. And I saw the big chest here. And people complain about Navi. Hilda is Navi. Also, I swear, the jumping plant enemies are way beefier in the health department in this game. Because even a hammer swing doesn't one-shot them. They take forever to get killed, just like everything else in Lowworld. So I went to the graveyard of Lowworld. Oh, I actually didn't see Lowworld Dampy at first because his skin is gray and he blended in with all the rocks. He reveals that the reason he looks this way and no one's seen him in 10 years is because he's a ghost. That's the stupidest looking ghost I've ever seen. Ghosts in Zelda are supposed to be floating in ethereal and stuff. This is literally just Dampé, but palette swapped so that his skin looks gray. That's so lazy. It's like they thought to make him a ghost at the last minute. There's so many last minute changes in this game. He says that he was protecting something in life, and then goes on to not protect anything despite standing there just like when he was alive, so I don't see why he can't continue to protect it. I mean, he's not even intangible, you can't walk through him or anything. So why can't he, like, grab a weapon and protect stuff? There's nothing I can do in the cemetery because they're just giant rocks I can't lift yet because I don't really have the Titan's mitts right now. So I simply went through the portal north of it, saw that I had a really small ledge to walk around in, and panicked going back into the portal because I didn't want to go get the Mai, pop out of the wall, and then I had to go all the way back to the sanctuary to backtrack to where I was before in Lowworld. This works so much better in the original, where I could just use the mirror on that ledge, go in a cave, and get out. Here I have to remember that it's faster to get the piece of heart from the cave, and then get the Mai on the wall, which shouldn't be there trying to lure you into getting it and then having to backtrack. Also, I like that you immediately get the piece of heart in this cave, because in the original, they wasted your time making you throw a bunch of jars in your way and then bomb a wall. So this game doesn't actually have an equivalent to Misery Mire, which makes sense. The so-called swamp dungeon had no water in it at all, and only the second Dark World dungeon really had any. So there was no point in having Misery Mire if it was going to be just a generic dungeon swamp or not. Instead, this game has you switch between the Swamp of Evil from Lowworld and the desert leading to the Desert Palace, which is a Lowworld dungeon that ironically takes place in Hyrule instead. Yuka was pretty creative in sending one of the stages to Hyrule instead. Of course, you can navigate the desert using the sand rod to create paths. Why does Hilda waste my time when I go to the swamp entrance? Oh, the Sandrod Rupee Maze isn't in the former water-draining entrance to the Swamp Palace. It's actually in some random indescript cave just a screen west of it in Lowworld. The Birdwatcher guy from under the bridge in Hyrule has an equivalent in Lowworld here, who says that for no reason, his birds turned into monsters. At least the Dark World explained transformations as reflecting people's true nature after what Ganon did with the Triforce. And I don't see how his logical conclusion from that is to try to wear a mask and become a monster, while spending time with flying monsters he's afraid of. Wait, the boss arena of the Desert Palace is a desert in Lowworld right next to a swamp? How does that make sense? Wouldn't the water hydrating the swamp hydrate the desert too? The walls surrounding the sand don't look high enough to keep rain clouds away. They could have easily had the boss arena in Hyrule. The Swamp of Evil in this game has a lot less to do and is thus a lot less interesting than Link to the Past. In Link to the Past, there were 3 big buildings shaped like monsters with gaping mouths, one of which had a piece of heart and another chest that you push blocks to get, and another of which had a Great Fairy Fountain, with the third being the dungeon entrance. It also had a place where you could go to the Light World to get a heart piece from a cave where you push blocks to get it, and it had a pointless cave with an NPC girl that gives you a hint about how to stop the eternal rain, unfortunately, to make the dungeon rise from the water using a medallion. None of that charm or set pieces are in this swamp. It's just an entrance to the desert. It's so lazy. At least this game's Desert of Mystery isn't extremely bland and boring like the original, because you have the sand rod and the wall fusing to navigate around. But they just made the same mistake that they originally did with the desert with this game's swamp, having it be a big empty area of nothing. All the swamp has is 2 Mai-Mais. That's it. And about medallions, that's the thing. A Link to the Past had a lot of items whose only purpose were to give you more items or progress with the game. This included 2 medallions, the mushroom, the shovel, and the Book of Medora, which is used to create memorable set pieces where Link prays to move away a stone block in the Desert Palace, and Link can get medallions from 2 giant books. This game doesn't do that. Every item is for puzzles, and that's good. It also doesn't have even 1 invincibility item, let alone 2. Also, I just learned today, playing up to the dungeon, that pressing select brings up the item menu with a button. I pressed start all those times it didn't bring up the item menu, just a worthless pause screen. So, I hope you can understand why I got confused. Oddly, generally the sand paths by the sand rod force you to fuse with them rather than just letting you walk on the top of them, which feels roundabout and tedious. The Swamp of Evil does have a northeast corner with a heart piece that you get by switching worlds, but that's really it. And that's not nearly as interesting as pushing 2 blocks in a cave north and 2 blocks east to get one. Not to mention you lack the challenge of using the mirror in the right place so you won't get immediately sent back to the Dark World. Continuing with the running gag of everything being inferior in this game, the vultures are even more annoying, because they actually are of a higher elevation than you when flying around you this time around, meaning you can't attack them until they decide at light speed to fly closer to the ground, at which point they generally have already attacked you from contact damage. These vultures are like the Zelda enemy equivalents of Sonic Rush boss fights. You have to wait for a long time for your opportunity to attack, and that's boring. And since these vultures are all over the place, it just makes going through the desert tedious, when the Sandmen popping up are already annoying. Though not nearly as annoying as the original, they barely show up here and you can bring them up with a sand rod. It's the vultures that are the problem, overwhelming me with their numbers and begging me to attack them, and I just want to get a move on. At least the desert doesn't have cacti anymore for you to constantly dash into when you're just trying to get a move on. Instead, the desert has long stretches of sand, walls that you have to fuse with to progress on a higher elevation, switching to low roll and back briefly. And then there's one really overwhelming part of the desert where you're standing on a bunch of small pillars with gray stone floors in the sand that can't get a path created from them, limiting your options, and vultures that will try to knock you off the pillars, make you backtrack a lot to get back on top of them. I was really panicking, not sure where I was supposed to go at first because I forgot I just had to progress north and west, and with the gray stone floors limiting where I could make sand paths, I was forced to think steps ahead, making elaborate curving paths rather than just going straight to the goal. I think I got distracted by the crack portal in the higher wall that I wasn't sure I could reach at all. It's here where I realized that sadly, the sand rod is the one item that doesn't let you use it diagonally, because you can't create diagonal paths of sand with it. Never mind that you can attack diagonally, throw the boomerang diagonally, throw the hookshot diagonally, shoot the arrows diagonally, and so on. This particular item doesn't let you use it diagonally at all. Why? Why? Would it have been too brain taxing to make level design around that? I guess it was hard enough making a sand dungeon based around making sand pathways, without having to account for making them in all 8 directions. Anyways, this is disappointingly the only really interesting area in the new Desert of Mystery, because right after this is the dungeon. So really, this is just a more cramped version of the original desert, with the annoying cacti and sandmen replaced with much more annoying vultures.